Margaret is an elderly woman who now lives alone after the loss of her husband several months ago. His passing left a void in her life, and since then, she has become increasingly isolated. Family members who once visited regularly have grown distant. Friends she used to meet for tea have slowly faded away. Days pass without a single conversation, leaving Margaret alone with only her thoughts for company. The warmth and laughter that once filled this home have long disappeared, replaced by silence and solitude. The state of her home reflects her declining emotional and mental well-being. Dishes remain unwashed, personal belongings are scattered across the room, and unopened letters sit on the table, ignored. The meal beside her remains untouched, not because she isn't hungry, but because eating alone feels like just another reminder of the emptiness surrounding her. Even the simplest of tasks, like getting dressed or making a cup of tea, feel exhausting. Margaret sits in her living room, surrounded by memories of a life that once felt full. Since her husband passed away, she has become more isolated, with few visitors and little conversation. The clutter around her tells a story of neglect. Letters remain unopened, her meal untouched. She barely eats, barely speaks, and the silence of her home grows heavier each day. Her son enters the room, his tone sharp with frustration. He sighs and crosses his arms, looking at Margaret with impatience. "Mom, you're so slow. I don't have all day to wait on you." Margaret flinches but says nothing. She looks down, avoiding his gaze. He continues, his words dismissive. "You just sit here all day, doing nothing. No one has time for this. The world has moved on, but you just won't." Margaret shifts uncomfortably, her eyes welling up. She wants to respond but stays silent, withdrawing further into herself. Her son picked up another plate of food, which had been left, taking it into the kitchen and smashing it into the sink out of frustration. "That's it, I've had it," he shouts as he storms down the hallway. "If you can't change for me, what's the point?" His footsteps thumped down the hallway as he exited the property, slamming the front door behind him. As Margaret becomes more isolated, she turns to the digital world for companionship and answers. With no one to talk to, she spends more time scrolling through videos and online forums, searching for something, or someone, that understands her loneliness. At first, the videos seem harmless, discussing societal changes and personal struggles, but as she continues watching, the messages shift. The content reinforces her feelings of abandonment, telling her that people like her are being left behind, that the world is unfair, and that she is right to feel angry. Margaret listens intently, her eyes fixated on the screen. "They understand," she whispers, her voice barely audible. "They know what it's like to be forgotten." Her fingers tremble as she taps on another video, the titles becoming more extreme, urging viewers to wake up and stand against the system. One afternoon, a care worker enters Margaret's home, as they do regularly, to check in on her well-being. The care worker immediately notices the shift in Margaret's behavior. Her eyes are glassy, her shoulders hunched, and she seems distant, absorbed in her tablet. The air is thick with an uncomfortable silence, broken only by the faint hum of the screen. The care worker approaches gently, not wanting to startle her. "Margaret, how are you feeling today?" they ask, their voice soft but concerned. Margaret doesn't respond right away. She shifts uncomfortably in her armchair, her eyes flicking nervously to the screen before looking away. "Have you been watching anything recently?" The care worker continues, trying to engage her without judgment. Margaret hesitates, her hands tightening around the tablet. She looks down, unsure how to respond. I'm just trying to pass the time," she says quietly, her voice tinged with confusion. "I don't know, just watching some things." They seem to understand. The care worker watches her closely, noticing the unsettling content displayed on the tablet. They understand that Margaret's isolation and vulnerability may be feeding into her attraction to this material. "I understand, Margaret," the care worker responds, their tone reassuring. "It's easy to feel like that sometimes. But there's also other content that can help lift your spirits, something positive. Maybe we can watch something together?" Margaret looks uncertain but listens intently. The care worker gently continues, "I know some wonderful groups and activities in the community that might help you reconnect with others. How about we find something positive to watch and talk about things that make you feel better? I'm here to support you." The care worker's gentle approach and offer of alternative support aim to help Margaret break free from the harmful content and regain a sense of connection and safety. The care workers support Margaret with some tasks around the home, bringing a smile to her face. After the visit, the care worker documented all activities on her organization's records. The care worker's gentle encouragement seems to lift Margaret's spirits. She slowly relaxes, a small smile forming as they begin watching a lighthearted documentary together, one that sparks a flicker of interest. The care worker then ensures Margaret is well cared for, offering to prepare her a warm meal and making sure she has a drink to keep hydrated. While Margaret enjoys the meal, the care worker engages in light conversation, helping her feel more connected and supported. After ensuring Margaret is comfortable, the care worker takes the time to document the visit in their records. They noted the interaction, the change in Margaret's emotional state, and the specific activities they engaged in, including watching the documentary, discussing community activities, and encouraging a healthier routine. The care worker also records the concerns about Margaret's isolation and the inappropriate content on her tablet, ensuring that these issues are flagged for follow-up in future visits. By keeping clear and detailed records, the care worker helps ensure Margaret receives the ongoing support she needs to stay safe and feel valued.